Naomi Bishop's heels clicked like timid metronomes across the marble foyer of the Avalon Grand Hotel, each echo swallowed by laughter far wealthier than hers. Gold chandeliers rained liquid light onto designer gowns, emerald cufflinks, and champagne flutes so thin they quivered with every giggle. In her thrift store dress, a daisy yellow cotton number she'd altered herself, Naomi felt like a sticky note in a gallery of oil paintings. But she held her invitation tight. Professor Naomi Bishop, guest lecturer, Community Literacy Initiative. The cardstock was heavy. The ink smelled like privilege. Somewhere beyond the velvet rope, tonight's charity patrons were bidding on silent auction. Treasures to fund a children's reading program, her program. She just needed to thank them, maybe shake a hand, then fade back into the city's anonymous glow. A hostess in sculpted satin stepped into her path. "Silent auction is that way," she chirped, eyes scanning Naomi's frayed clutch with anthropological curiosity. "Catering staff entrance is downstairs." "I'm actually a speaker," Naomi said, voice polished from years of college lecterns. She offered the invite. The hostess accepted it the way one picks up a used tissue, skimmed the crest embossed at the top, then lifted a single eyebrow. "Wonderful," she lied. "Registration desk is over there." But her manicured finger aimed Naomi straight toward a line of servers in white coats unloading shrimp towers from silver vans. A few guests caught the gesture and smirked. A flush crept up Naomi's neck, hot as stage lights. She pivoted to the main ballroom instead. If she could just find the director, Mr. Harrington, he'd vouch for her. Yet every step felt heavier than the last. Conversations hushed as she passed. "Who let the Sunday market girl in? Is that Poplin? I didn't know buttercups were in season." The jabs slid under her skin with surgical precision. Still, she smiled. "Courtesy outlasts cruelty," her grandmother always said. Inside, a string quartet teased Mozart above a sea of tuxedos. Naomi threaded through crystal tables labeled with last names that built half the skyline: Bliss, Chen, Montague. At the center stood a 7-tier sponsorship board glowing on an LED screen. And there, Tier 6, was the Bishop Initiative. She exhaled. "Proof I belong." A champagne flute materialized in her hand. A towering man in a midnight suit flashed veneers of philanthropic charm. "Every gala needs a dose of sunshine," he said, eyes tracing the stitch lines of her dress. "Are you the entertainment? Magicians have really toned down the wardrobe, huh?" Naomi forced a laugh. "Not a magician, just a believer in books." She tried to step away, but he blocked her with conversational gravity. "I'm Daniel Fairfax," he said, name dropping like a medal onto the floor. "Fairfax & Co. Investment behemoths. You design children's programs? Admirable. I invested once in a charity. Nice tax write-off. Of course, some causes bring more prestige." He handed her a card. Holographic logo, platinum edges. She had nowhere to put it but inside her clutch. A glittering parasite. "Naomi. Bishop," she replied. His eyes narrowed. "Bishop. Any relation to Victor Bishop by chance?" The air shifted. Nearby guests leaned in like pigeons, sensing breadcrumbs. Her pulse stumbled. She hadn't heard her husband's name in weeks. Not since his board meetings chased him around continents. "He's my husband," she admitted. Daniel's brows climbed in slow, predatory delight. "The venture capitalist? The one who bought half the AI startups in Silicon Valley?" He whistled softly. "Then where's the headline jewelry?" "Mrs. Bishop? Seems you left your diamond train at home." The circle of eavesdroppers burst into polite laughter. Razor blades wrapped in linen. Naomi gripped her flute until the stem squealed. She hated how easily strangers measured worth in carats. Victor would laugh at this circus, she thought. He'd laugh, kiss her forehead, and buy the building just to change the locks. But Victor was in Zurich, Last text. Flight delayed. I'll stream your speech. Proud of you. She stood alone. A woman in a cowl-back gown stroked Naomi's sleeve. Vintage? She asked, voice sweet with venom. My grandmother donates fabric to church bazaars, too. Naomi pulled away. Excuse me, I need to find the program director. That would be me, Daniel declared, seizing the moment. He wasn't, but power loves impersonation. He beckoned a nearby photographer. Let's catch the philanthropist in her natural habitat. The flash popped. Naomi blinked. Violet afterimages danced like bruises across her vision. The photographer lowered his camera, frowned at the digital screen, then lifted it again. Sorry, glare from the inexpensive cotton. More laughter. A violinist missed a note. Naomi placed the flute on a passing tray, her courage slipping like condensation. She pivoted toward the doors, but Daniel's hand landed on her shoulder. Don't vanish. The poverty aesthetic is very en vogue right now. Stick around. We might raise more if the bidders see what we're saving children from. Her breath caught. Half rage, half ache. You came here for the kids, she reminded herself. Swallow it for them. She bit her lip, tasted iron, and stared at the sponsorship board again. Bishop Initiative, $250,000 donation, money. Victor insisted stay. Anonymous. Tonight anonymity felt like shackles. Darling, a lilting voice called. A woman draped in sapphire chiffon approached Daniel. Who's your guest? She scanned Naomi like an appraising jeweler. Oh, I thought staff uniforms were black. Tonight. I'm not staff, Naomi said, sharper than intended. Sapphire's smile curled. Of course. Everyone serves someone. Daniel chuckled, sipping golden bubbles. Turns out she serves story time. Naomi's vision blurred. She squared her shoulders. Actually, I run story time, and the after-school robotics hub, and the mobile book clinic for underserved districts. Programs tonight's auction pays for, assuming donors care more about children than chiffon. A hush spread, sticky and sudden. Sapphire's lips thinned. Daniel's laughter stalled mid-breath. Naomi felt every eye latching on, waiting for her to crumble. Instead, the ballroom lights dimmed. A synthesized chime sounded overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the main entrance for a special arrival. The announcer boomed. Daniel rolled his eyes. Probably another influencer demanding red carpet shots. Double doors swung wide. Security guards flanked a tall figure whose stride radiated boardroom thunder. Tailored charcoal suit, silver cufflinks catching stray starlight from the chandeliers. Even from across the hall, Naomi recognized the easy way his shoulders moved, like potential energy waiting to detonate. Victor Bishop had made the party after all. The gasp that rippled through the ballroom felt almost physical, like a wind pushing Naomi forward. Conversations fractured, phones lifted in trembling hands. Victor's gaze scanned the room until it locked on the only woman not glittering. Under $1 million necklace, his mouth softened. Naomi couldn't move, afraid the dream would pixelate. Daniel Fairfax pivoted, color draining. You said your husband was in Zurich, he whispered. He must have caught an earlier flight, Naomi replied, voice steady. Now, heart-drumming victory cadences. Victor crossed the marble like a verdict, stopping beside Naomi. He brushed a thumb across the bruise of flash still blooming in her eyes. Then, turning to the ring of elites, he smiled. A smile people once compared to sunrise until they realized sunrise can burn. Good evening, he said, tone velvet over steel. I heard there was a party celebrating my wife's work. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Naomi watched mouths drop in silent symphony. For the first time tonight, her dress felt like armor. Courtesy outlasts cruelty. But sometimes, power accelerates justice. An audible tremor of status recalibration coursed through the ballroom the instant Victor Bishop's name registered. Phones lowered. Laughter guttered out like candles in rain. Naomi's humiliation hadn't simply been interrupted. It had been set on fire and exchanged for anticipation. Victor kissed her temple, a private gesture broadcast to 100 gawking onlookers, then slipped an arm around her waist. His cufflinks, platinum facets shaped like open books, glinted a quiet reassurance. Our story isn't finished. With the weight of his presence, Naomi felt taller, as if her daisy-yellow dress had stretched into silk. Daniel Fairfax recovered first. Like every seasoned social predator, he understood that control depends on momentum. "Mr. Bishop," he boomed, voice lacquered in sudden warmth. "A pleasure. We were just marveling at your wife's, dedication." Victor turned a deliberate gaze on Daniel as though cataloging a museum relic. "Were you?" he asked, mild as an April breeze. Daniel's smile thinned. A hostess rushed forward, waving a tablet. "Mr. Bishop, if you'd like to join the Platinum Benefactor table—" "Actually," Victor interrupted, "I'll stand with my wife until she's delivered her keynote. Then we'll both join the children at the literacy exhibit." He looked down at Naomi. "Unless you prefer platinum chandeliers to paperbacks." "Paperbacks," Naomi said, savoring the syllables. Someone nearby snickered. Nervous, not mean. The tide had turned, but etiquette demanded a new target. Sapphire gown woman curtsied, jewelry chiming. "Mrs. Bishop, forgive us. We had no idea your work enjoyed such executive support." Naomi met her gaze, steady. "Good causes rarely need validation from diamond bracelets." The quartet shifted into a softer melody. Servers adjusted trajectories like startled birds. Yet currents of unease still eddied around Daniel Fairfax. No amount of tuxedo sheen could hide his twitching jaw. For years he'd cultivated this gala as his private amphitheater. He would not surrender the spotlight to a librarian in cotton. He raised his glass and tapped the crystal with a dessert fork. "Friends, may I have your attention?" Amplified by the sound system, his voice bounced off the coffered ceilings. "Before our honored guests proceed, I propose a spontaneous fundraising challenge, an elite auction item for tonight only." Applause followed, relieved, structure returned. Daniel gestured toward a velvet-draped easel. An assistant whisked away the cloth to reveal a framed photograph, a secluded Tahitian villa dangling over turquoise water. Gasps flitted around like butterflies. "1 week stay," Daniel announced. "Starting bid, $50,000. Proceeds directly benefit local literacy, through the Bishop Initiative, of course." Eyes pivoted to Naomi, expecting gratitude, maybe even tears. But Naomi saw the move for what it was, a test. If the bishops failed to match the philanthropic bravado, whispers would sprout. Paperbacks can't buy paradise. She sensed Victor studying her, waiting for her cue. She inhaled, letting the gala's perfume, jasmine, money, nervous sweat, fill her lungs. Then she stepped forward. "50,000 is generous," she began, voice calibrated to linger at microphone level despite no microphone. "But tonight isn't about luxury trips. It's about children reading their first sentence without stumbling, about parents hearing bedtime stories in shelters. Let's dream bigger." Murmurs rose, a tide gathering behind her. Confidence flowed like ink from a fountain pen. Naomi lifted her invitation, reading number 6 on the sponsorship board. "My husband and I pledged $250,000 to seed community libraries. But literacy demands more than seed money. It needs water, sunlight, relentless care." She looked straight at Daniel. "So we're doubling our commitment. $500,000, effective immediately." The ballroom inhaled as one organism. Silverware stilled. Champagne halted, mid-bubble. Daniel's fork slipped, chiming against glass. Even Victor's eyebrows climbed in pleasant surprise. Naomi wasn't finished. "And," she added, each vowel crisp, We invite anyone here to match our total, not for villas or social media, posts, but for stocked shelves and open doors. Who joins us? Silence stretched, a taut violin string, but pride is brittle when rubbed against conscience. The first hand rose. Ms. Montague, real estate magnate, cheeks flushed. Montague Holdings, 500,000. Another. Dr. Chen from Biotech, 300. Then Sapphire Gown, perhaps out of penance, 200. Hands followed like dominoes until the digital board flickered beyond 1.8 million. Dollars. Naomi's heart pounded, part disbelief, part victorious adrenaline. She glanced at Victor. His eyes shone with marvel. Behind them, the quartet abandoned Mozart for an impromptu, lilting rendition of Amazing Grace. You've turned the night around, Victor whispered. We did, she corrected. Daniel Fairfax drained his glass, face a brittle mask. He tried gamely. Astounding! My team will tally the totals. But power had already migrated. His words landed like pennies in a wishing well. The MC seized momentum. Ladies and gentlemen, let's escort Mrs. Bishop to the podium for her speech. A path opened through the crowd, reverent, almost embarrassed for having doubted her. Naomi ascended the stage steps, palms tingling. She rested her notes on the lectern but didn't unfold them. Instead, she scanned the chandeliers, imagining the children whose futures glittered just as brightly. She began. Stories saved my life. They turned cramped apartments into castles, hunger into hope, and fear into rocket fuel. Tonight you gave thousands of children that same magic. They will never forget your generosity, nor will I. But remember, it isn't the size of your wallet that rewrites destinies. It's the size of your heart. Faces softened. Some eyes glistened. Even the photographer who mocked her earlier angled his lens with new respect, capturing not cotton thread but quiet fire. Mid-speech, Naomi spotted movement near the service doors. Catering staff clustered, listening. Her words reached them too. Mothers, students, dreamers juggling trays for tuition. She raised her voice so the echo stretched past velvet ropes. Literacy belongs to everyone. Thunderous applause erupted, rolling like surf. Victor stepped, up, squeezing her hand. Flashbulbs burst white constellations. For the first time that evening, Naomi welcomed the glare, but triumph's glow cast long shadows. In a far corner, Daniel Fairfax huddled with a pair of stern men brandishing clipboards, event accountants. She saw him gesturing at the sponsorship board, lips taut, finger-stabbing numbers. Something wasn't adding up, at least not in his favor. Naomi filed the image away. The night was hers now, yet conflict rarely surrenders so easily. The next act, she sensed, would unveil a different challenge, one that money alone could not quell. As the applause ebbed, the MC announced, "Join us in 15 minutes at the literacy exhibit for a special presentation by Mr. and Mrs. Bishop." The crowd dispersed toward cocktail towers, buzzing like newly electrified bees. Victor leaned in. "You soared, sunshine." She smiled, leaning into his shoulder for a fleeting second of calm. "Let's see how high we can keep flying." Across the room, Daniel watched, jaw flexing. He handed the clipboard back, face ignited by a new, poisonous idea. Naomi felt the prickle of eyes on her spine and knew. The evening's unexpected turn had lifted her, but turbulence still gathered on the horizon. Naomi had scarcely finished signing a stack of commemorative programs when a junior coordinator ushered her and Victor toward the mezzanine exhibit. Glass panels showcased children's drawings beneath spotlights, stick-figure astronauts reading. By starlight, princesses brandishing books instead of swords. Naomi's chest warmed. This was the real gala, glitter traded for crayon. Guests drifted in behind them, champagne replaced by softer smiles. At the entrance stood Daniel Fairfax, posture ironed straight, flanked by two gray-suited men whose expressions were pure ledger. Their name badges read Bryce Quinn, head auditor, and Leon Patel, compliance officer. Naomi sensed the temperature drop. "Mrs. Bishop," Daniel greeted, voice slick but brittle. "Before the exhibit opens, we require a brief clarification regarding tonight's pledges." Victor frowned. "Clarification?" "Auditor." Quinn produced a tablet. "Your foundation's earlier commitment, $250,000, was logged at 1842. The subsequent pledge to double that amount was recorded at 1916. Unfortunately, our database shows the Bishop Family Trust is already at its annual charitable maximum. Accepting another $250 tonight would incur penalties under Section 42 of Federal Nonprofit Tax Code." Naomi blinked. "Penalties? We're not withdrawing. Merely reallocating." Daniel raised a cautionary palm. "No one's accusing anyone. It's simply paperwork. Until compliance signs off, the doubled pledge must be classified as pending, which means—" He pivoted to the hovering guests, tone martyr smooth. "The live total displayed on our board is sadly inflated." Ripples of murmurs formed eddies of doubt. Naomi felt a tug in her gut, a déjà vu of being measured and discarded. She straightened. "Our trust can liquidate stock positions tomorrow. The funds will clear long before penalties kick in." "Even so," Quinn said, "policy dictates unverified pledges be removed from the public tally within the hour." He motioned to a technician by the LED board. Red numbers awaited erasure. Eyes swung toward Naomi, assessing sincerity versus scandal. Social media influencers at the fringe raised phones again, their algorithms hungry for reversal stories. Victor's jaw hardened. "This is a charity event, not a courtroom. Suspend the policy 24 hours, and you'll have wire confirmation." Leon Patel shook his head. "The policy is audited by the Inspector General's office." "Exceptions trigger investigation," Daniel sighed theatrically. "We all admire your passion, Victor, but rules protect integrity. I'm sure Mrs. Bishop agrees. We wouldn't want children disappointed by unfunded promises." The barb landed. Naomi tasted coppery memory of earlier humiliation. She inhaled, steadying. "Mr. Quinn, how many books could tonight's pledges buy?" The auditor blinked, unused to moral math. "Approximately 200,000. "And how many children would read those books?" Projecting, 50,000. Naomi stepped closer, voice low but carrying. "Then for 50,000 kids' sake, let's solve paperwork without public theater. We'll sign an escrow. Agreement right now guaranteeing the doubled amount with penalties payable personally if funds don't arrive in 48 hours. Gasps fluttered. She had placed personal stakes on the table. Daniel's eyes flickered. This wasn't the collapse he'd scripted. Quinn hesitated, scrolling. "An escrow clause would satisfy Section 42. Patel nodded. "It would." Victor reached for his Mont Blanc pen. "Draft it." But Daniel lunged for a final card. "There's another issue." He pointed at the sponsorship board. "Earlier, you implied anonymity around the Bishop initiative. Yet I see Victor Bishop emblazoned in Tier 6. That public credit could be construed as self-promotion under specific IRS interpretations. The inspector won't appreciate perceived vanity. The accusation was flimsy, but gossip seldom checks footnotes." Naomi's cheeks heated again. Not from shame, from fury at the endless moving goalposts. She pivoted toward the gathering crowd, raising her voice enough to steal narrative momentum. "Credit misconstrued as vanity?" she echoed. "Very well." She stepped to the technician and whispered. The man tapped keys. The LED list shimmered. Then the words "Bishop Initiative" dissolved, replaced by "Anonymous Friend of Literacy." Hush curled around them. Naomi faced Daniel. "Problem solved? Our names vanish? The children stay?" Applause erupted, not roaring like earlier triumph, but earnest, the sound of a room deciding which compass to follow. Daniel's shoulders sagged a millimeter. Quinn coughed. "Mrs. Bishop, if you'll join us in the conference alcove, we can execute the escrow documents." Naomi nodded. 5 minutes, after I greet our real guests." She gestured to a cluster of 10-year-olds in school uniforms, invited students clutching VIP lanyards, eyes wide at the opulence. She crouched to their level. "Welcome, readers. These drawings are amazing." A boy handed her a sketch of a dragon guarding a library. "That's me," he said proudly. "I'm the dragon." She beamed. "Every good library needs a fearless guardian." The children giggled. Nearby, donors' faces softened, reminded why they wore cufflinks tonight. Behind, Victor conferred with Quinn and Patel, signatures blossoming across digital forms. Cameras flashed again, this time capturing paperless contracts, not derision. The sponsorship board updated. Total raised $3,200,000. Naomi's pledge now verified under the alias. But Daniel, sidelined, studied his phone. A text popped up from Globe Scoop News. "Confirm rumor. Librarian wife of VC exposed for fake donation." A venomous smile twitched. If he couldn't block her gift, he'd poison its perception. He typed, "Tip. Pledge under review. Possible violation. Sources here." He attached a photo snapped earlier, the moment Naomi had seemed cornered by auditors. "Send." Naomi straightened, sensing some distant disturbance. She spotted Daniel's thumb press the screen, their eyes locked, hers steady, his glimmering, with a last-ditch flame. The exhibit lights dimmed for a multimedia presentation, footage of underfunded classrooms morphing into colorful libraries. Guests faced forward, mist in their eyes. In the darkness, Naomi whispered to Victor, "Fairfax just seeded a story." Victor's hand tightened around hers. "Then we'll give reporters the sequel they need." As the video ended, spotlights bloomed, revealing a surprise on stage. 50 bright backpacks stacked into a pyramid. The MC declared, "In honor of tonight's donors, our sponsors will deliver these literacy kits to shelters tomorrow morning." Leading the convoy, Mrs. Naomi Bishop. Another wave of applause. Naomi glanced at Daniel. His phone buzzed again, maybe press confirmation. But public sentiment had shifted. Every headline would now contend with images of backpacks and children, not loopholed tax codes. Still, the battle wasn't finished. Reputations nowadays lived on feeds, susceptible to viral infections. Naomi felt the storm clouds of misinformation gathering beyond the hotel walls. Victor leaned in, voice a vow. "We'll control the narrative, starting with a live interview before anyone spins it." She nodded, courage rekindled. "Let's make truth trend." A final toast was called. Crystal sang. Naomi raised her glass of sparkling water, bubbles, rising like hopeful commas. Around her, patrons chatted about weekend volunteer sign-ups instead of villa getaways. Yet at the ballroom's edge, Daniel slipped out a side door into the service corridor, the only path left for those with shrinking spotlight. Naomi exhaled. Triumph tasted different now, not sweet but resolute, a readiness for the digital duel awaiting sunrise. Morning shattered like sequins across Manhattan glass, and with it came a tidal roar of notifications. Naomi's phone buzzed so hard it inched across the hotel nightstand. She rubbed sleep from her eyes, opened the first alert, and winced. Charity? Darling or tax dodger? Inside the Bishop donation scandal? The headline sat atop a grainy photo of her flanked by auditors, Daniel's chosen frame. Beneath, commenters carved their verdicts. Typical elites, virtue-signaling librarian, another fake philanthropist. Victor entered from the adjoining room, tablet in hand. Fairfax leveraged 3 tabloids before sunrise. They're feeding on the pending pledge angle. He scrolled. BillionaireBookgate is trending. The tag pulsed crimson, a wound on public trust. Naomi's stomach tightened, but she forced a steady breath. Time to cauterize. She pulled on jeans and the same daisy yellow dress, creased yet defiant. I won't hide behind new clothes when the old ones still fit our cause. Within 30 minutes, they were in a rideshare barreling toward the South Bronx Community Library, Naomi's first literacy outpost. Victor coordinated with their comms team, arranging a live stream across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and a children's reading app. Multiple platforms, simultaneous push, he said. If truth is content, we out-content the rumor. Outside the library, a wall of press vans already idled, dishes spinning skyward. Daniel's leaks had summoned them like vultures. Naomi stepped out anyway, greeted flashbulbs that hissed questions. Mrs. Bishop, is your donation imaginary? Are taxpayers subsidizing your publicity stunt? Will the pledge be withdrawn? Naomi raised a hand. You'll have answers. In 10 minutes. Inside. She turned, heart-rattling ribs, but children's laughter floated through open windows. An oxygen mask. She entered the sunlit reading hall where 40 backpacks from last night now lined shelves. Kids leafed through graphic novels, oblivious to hashtags warring above their heads. A staffer whispered, "Stream is live in 90 seconds." Naomi nodded, palms damp. Victor adjusted the phone gimbal, framing her against a mural painted by neighborhood teens, a phoenix of books rising from city rooftops. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, world, Naomi began, voice soft enough to hush reporters inching closer. I'm Naomi Bishop, librarian, teacher, daughter of a single mom who read paperbacks under street lamps. She panned the camera across. The children. These are my shareholders. Their currency is imagination. Their ROI is possibility. She faced the lens. Last night, we pledged $500,000 to literacy. Internet rumors question that pledge. So here is proof. Victor angled his tablet into frame, displaying a time-stamped wire transfer confirmation. Funds already moved into escrow at 8:03 a.m. Receipts, Naomi said. But receipts don't inspire a child to turn a page. Stories do. So I challenge everyone following BillionaireBookgate. Before you tweet, read. Post a photo of the book that shaped you, tag it, share your story, and our foundation will donate $1 per post, up to another $500,000, reporters murmured. Cameras zoomed. A live chat counter exploded upward, hearts, rocket emojis, famous authors retweeting pledge screenshots. In less than 5 minutes, our Share Your Story climbed the trending ladder, shoving Fairfax's narrative down the feed. But battles seldom end with one volley. Across town, inside a boardroom paneled with rosewood, Daniel Fairfax paced like a wolf in a shrinking cage. An aide thrust a phone at him. Sir, Bishop's live stream hit 2 million views. Sentiment turning. Daniel's pulse thudded. He barked. Release the tax exemption memo. Imply offshore shell companies. Keep eyes on them. Back at the library, Naomi fielded Q&A. A skeptical anchor asked, Mrs. Bishop, what about allegations your foundation masks for profit ventures? Naomi gestured to a girl in a wheelchair engrossed in a Braille edition of Harry Potter. That's profit. It's the richest dividend I've known. But for transparency, our financials are pinned to our website. Audited, downloadable, yours. She smiled gently. Data beats gossip. Victor's phone chimed. A push notification. From GlobeScoop, Shell Company shock, Bishop Trust linked overseas. Victor swiped, scanning. Fairfax isn't quitting, he muttered. He's throwing smoke bombs. Naomi answered another question, then whispered, Let's clear the smoke. They closed the stream, promising a follow-up at noon from Gala headquarters, where the rumor started. An hour later, they swept back into the Avalon Grand's foyer. The chandelier light looked different in daylight, less rich, more clinical. Daniel awaited near the marble staircase, flanked not by auditors but by 2 board members of the Gala's parent foundation. Their folded arms suggested an ambush of a different sort. "Victor, Naomi," Daniel greeted, forced calm cracking at the edges. "The board has concerns. While your public gestures are touching, compliance flags remain. Until cleared, the Foundation recommends returning last night's pledges, yours and those who followed your charismatic lead." Naomi felt anger flicker, but she spoke coolly. "Remove funding, and the literacy kits ship back today. Tell the kids why." Board member Alvarez shifted uncomfortably. "Surely there's a middle ground." "There is," Victor said, producing another document. "Here's a signed affidavit from our independent auditor confirming no offshore shells. We also filed IRS Form 8283 2 months ago." He glanced at Daniel. "Your memo cites a dissolved entity from 2017. Alvarez scanned, eyes widening. Board member Russo peered over. "Daniel, you didn't mention this." Daniel's smile cracked. "Paperwork evolves. Due diligence, or defamation," Victor cut in, "which violates Clause 14 of your own foundation charter. Slander that jeopardizes fundraising constitutes misconduct. Grounds for removal." Lobby air thickened. Reporters spilled in, cameras ready. Naomi stepped forward, voice ringing. "Children's futures aren't chess pieces for personal vendettas. If this board believes otherwise, the public deserves to watch the vote." Alvarez swallowed. "Let's take this private." "We tried private," Naomi said. "Daniel made it public." She gestured to approaching press. "Truth has no backstage." A tense minute passed. Finally, Russo turned to Daniel. "Until allegations are verified, you're suspended from tonight's board decisions." Flashbulbs popped. Daniel's face bleaching under strobe light. He opened his mouth, but words refused service. Naomi exhaled. One hurdle cleared, but endurance mattered more than sprints. She addressed journalists. "Our pledge stands. Our challenge stands. And tomorrow, we invite every skeptic to pack literacy kits with us. Live streamed, no edit button." As reporters dispersed to draft new angles, Naomi slumped briefly against Victor. "Exhausting," she whispered. He brushed her knuckles. "Heroes are tired people who keep standing," she smiled, rallying. Notifications buzzed, celebrities posting childhood book photos, corporations matching the Haas Share Your Story pledge. The counter climbed, $312,201, $389,000, $472,000. Each dollar nailed another plank in Daniel's narrative coffin. But beyond the glass doors, a small crowd gathered, signs raised, "Tax the rich, charity or PR, show the books." The digital duel had spilled into streets. Naomi knew one misstep could flip momentum again. She straightened her daisy dress, feeling its seams like battle scars. "Part of me wants to retreat to shelves and silence," she said. Victor kissed her fingers. "Instead, you'll rewrite how charity is done." She nodded, eyes glinting. "Let's finish the last chapter." Dawn of the second day flushed peach over the East River as 20 vans, each wrapped in murals of soaring books, lined the curb outside the Avalon Grand. Reporters jostled barricades, live streams humming, protesters mingled with curious passers-by. Everyone wanted to know whether BillionaireBookgate would erupt or end in redemption. Naomi emerged first, still in her daisy-yellow dress, now paired with a reflective safety vest. She hefted a backpack onto her shoulder and faced the A crowd. "Good morning. Ready to load some stories?" Her voice sailed through bullhorns and microphones. The roil of chants quieted, curiosity overpowering doubt. Behind her, Victor wheeled a pallet stacked with sealed archive boxes. He cracked one open, revealing files inches thick, tax forms, audit letters, board minutes. "Full financial transparency. Downloadable within the hour," he announced. "But paperwork doesn't carry wonder into neighborhoods." "These vans do." A reporter from GNN shouted, "What about allegations your pledge coerced other donors?" Naomi stepped forward. No coercion, just inspiration. If generosity feels like pressure, perhaps the soul is undersized. Laughter rippled. Tension loosened another knot. She invited the 10 loudest protesters to inspect the documents on camera. 2 skeptics flipped through ledgers, whispering to a CPA live streaming from Utah. After minutes of rapid cross-checks, the accountant looked into his webcam. Numbers are airtight. A modest cheer floated up, signs lowered. Inside the lobby, Daniel Fairfax watched the scene through tinted glass. His suspension had sparked investor panic. Fairfax and Comer's board was in emergency session without him. He tapped his destroyed battery phone, but no sympathetic outlets answered. The spectacle outside was no longer PR, it was movement. Naomi climbed onto the first van's step rail, adjusting a headset for the global stream. Route 1, Bronx to Queens, rolling out. Engines rumbled. Children from the literacy program, dressed in bright green tees, formed a human tunnel. As the vans inched through, kids slapped their sides like launching spacecraft. Hashtag counters on giant LED screens ticked upward. Share Your Story posts surged past 700,000, unlocking the challenge's final dollar. Mid-celebration, victors. Phone lit with an encrypted alert. SEC filing opened into Fairfax insider trades. He glanced toward the glass. Daniel's silhouette slumped, forehead against the pane. Victor didn't smile. Justice executed itself. The convoy set off, Naomi riding shotgun with driver Julio, a laid-off school bus veteran turned volunteer. Streets blurred into mosaics of graffiti and lamppost banners. At each stop, shelters, community centers, battered women's refuges, kids burst out hugging backpacks like treasure chests. Cameras captured it all. Tears, squeals, first whiffs of new book ink. By midday, the stream's concurrent viewers eclipsed 4 million, outranking every tabloid headline. Influencers who had hawked scandal pivoted, filming themselves reading favorites. The Share Your Story counter punched through 1 million. Naomi's PR team scrambled to raise the donation cap. Corporate sponsors raced to match. Back at Avalon, board member Alvarez convened a press briefing. The foundation thanks Mr. and Mrs. Bishop for modeling radical transparency. He paused. We also announced Daniel Fairfax's resignation. Effective immediately. Gasps, then applause. Journalists savoring symmetry. Daniel slipped out a side exit, collar up against afternoon glare. No cameras followed. They'd migrated to the hero's caravan. In the alley, his limousine sat, idling but doors locked. The driver leaned out the window. Company card declined, sir. Daniel cursed, scanning for a taxi that wouldn't come. Evening settled lavender on Harlem's Frederick Douglass Plaza, where the convoy culminated. A temporary stage framed by fairy-lit book arches waited. Naomi climbed the steps to thunderous cheers from residents, volunteers, even some former protesters now wearing Reader's Rise stickers. She took the mic. 48 hours ago, a gala tried to decide whether a cotton dress belonged among silk. Tonight, cotton threads tie every beat. Borrow together. The crowd roared. Behind her, Victor unveiled the final total on a towering screen. $5.87, $432 raised for literacy in 2 days. Fireworks of confetti cannons burst. Kids screamed delight. Naomi raised a quieting hand. This isn't my victory. It's yours. Every tweet, every backpack packed, every skeptical question that pushed us to prove ourselves. Stories teach us villains fall, but they also teach us villains can change. If Daniel Fairfax ever wishes to read with us, he's welcome. Because literacy is mercy wearing glasses, laughter mingled with tears. A gospel choir slid into lean. On me, voices braiding hope into night air. Couples danced. Street food vendors donated platters. The plaza vibrated like a shared heartbeat. Off stage, Victor wrapped Naomi in an exhausted embrace. You rewrote the ending. We, she corrected, resting her head against his lapel. And a million storytellers with Wi-Fi. A teen approached, holding a battered paperback, To Kill a Mockingbird. Its spine was split, pages annotated. Mrs. Bishop, she said, shy. My mom read this to me in the shelter. Now I'm heading to college on a writing scholarship. Will you sign it? Naomi's throat tightened. She took the pen, writing, Courage is a story that never stops being told. Keep writing. N.B. As the choir reached its finale, drones captured a last sweeping shot, a sea of uplifted novels glowing under string lights, a convoy of empty vans awaiting tomorrow's restock, a daisy yellow dress in the center like a lighthouse. Social feeds flooded with the image, hashtags transmuting rumor into legend. Analysts predicted a permanent spike in children's book sales. Legislators cited the campaign while drafting a new national literacy grant called the Bishop Act. Far away, in a penthouse stripped of status, Daniel Fairfax scrolled through the feed, his name trending only beside indictments. He slammed the laptop, pigeons scattering off the balcony. He would survive, as villains do, but the city had a new queen, and her crown was woven from library cards. Naomi looked out over the plaza one last time, lungs filling with June-warm air scented by roasted corn and ink. Victor squeezed her hand. Home? Soon, she said. There's one more shelf to organize. They descended into the throng, signing books, listening to dreams, planting seeds of tomorrow. Cameras kept rolling, but Naomi barely noticed. The truest stories she knew unfolded long after the credits and far from chandeliers, between a child, a lamp, and the rustle of a page being turned.